Well, I think one of the key issues is making sure that all of our housing, particularly housing in low-income communities, is maintained the right way. We do have a lot of absentee landlords. We do have a lot of really slumlords that are not really taking care of the housing stock, and so we create these overcrowding conditions in many of our neighborhoods. So the issue one is I'm a big supporter of this program that we're trying to launch in the city of Long Beach, which is the REAP program, which is looking at substandard housing and making it better, and then putting money towards that. I'm also a supporter of using some of the money we get back from the state through the elimination of redevelopment and invest it back into housing. So we got to also create more housing. So I do believe that there's an opportunity for us to create additional affordable housing, workforce housing so that people have an opportunity to buy their own place and be productive members of society. The other piece of that also is to make sure that in these areas where there's high density, that there's services in these high density areas. So one of the tragedies of Long Beach, of course, is the higher the density where you live, the least likely you have access to open space and to parks. And so we've got to look at the high density areas that have no other opportunities for outdoor recreation. You go to parts of the suburbs of Long Beach, and many of them have lawns or backyards, and that's great, and they also have access to parks. But you go to parts of central Long Beach or North Long Beach, you've got apartments with other apartments all clumped together, yet there are no parks. So we've got to create more park space in dense areas, and that'll also help with some of the overcrowding issues.
So one of the issues we're facing is affordable housing. Where you see overcrowding, particularly is in lower income housing. And we need more affordable housing stock in Long Beach. And with the loss of the redevelopment agency, we've lost that 20% of the revenues that go there into our Long Beach Housing Development Corporation. And what we have left, and we've also lost tax credits, which are two ways to buy down the cost to make affordable housing affordable. And what we do have are all the properties that are in the redevelopment agency now. Those properties are valued at somewhere around $200 million. If and when we sell those properties, I would be in favor of taking a percentage of those revenues and then using that for affordable housing, and that will help mitigate some of the overcrowding that we're facing here in Long Beach.
It's a great problem. The answer is code enforcement. Code enforcement in Long Beach needs to be unleashed to inspect houses that are found to be, and houses that are found to be substandard need to be put on a list, and the escrow accounts that they talked about can be enforced. I think the best way to increase the quality of housing in Long Beach is not to build new housing projects, but to have code enforcement go out and work on the substandard housing that exists here, and there's a lot of it.
It's absolutely terrible. When I was on the council, I worked very hard to address code enforcement, to address the slumlords. They're usually absentee landlords who are bringing in funding but not giving people proper accommodations. So I developed an ordinance that exists in the city of Long Beach, and that ordinance says that if a family is found to be living in substandard conditions, code enforcement comes in and verifies that it is substandard. There's no heat, there's not proper light, there's no air, there aren't proper exits. Then the landlord has to pay the relocation costs. So, our behavior is determined by both incentives and penalties, right? That's kind of how human beings work. It would be nice if it was only incentives that were offered, but in this case, people are doing something wrong. The landlord is doing something wrong. And so there needs to be penalties. And the penalty is that person has to pay to find proper accommodations, good housing for families that's safe.
Well, the difficulty is because the City of Long Beach, the code enforcement needs to be beefed up. They cut some funds out of code enforcement. We pushed and got them restored, and that's the key, so that they can get in there and they can make the landlords take care of the housing. That's what I was talking about, trying to use some of the return money from redevelopment to do nothing but rehabilitate our housing stock. The first thing we need to do is offer an incentive to a landlord and say, we can help you get this fixed if it's a matter of money. When they don't respond, then we need to cite them, and we need to take it all the way to the city prosecutor and criminally prosecute, because substandard housing should not be allowed in the city of Long Beach.